Now, when it comes to Skylanders I have left to cover, I'm getting to the point where Skylanders with smaller amounts of lore being outnumbered by Skylanders with wide-spanning amounts of lore. What I'm basically trying to say here is that there are more Skylanders that need dedicated videos compared to Skylanders that I can bundle together into 3-part videos. So at this point, I'm just trying to figure out who I should cover next, and I'm pretty sure I just found that Skylander. Now, while I was researching for a video I did a while back, I would stumble across a nugget of information that surprised me, even at the time, and that was Terrafin's involvement in Drill Sergeant's backstory. The reason why I say this is because out of every Skylander to make an appearance in the backstory of another's, this is easily the most prominent as it feels like an addition to his lore than creating one for a new character. And that's when I realized something. Terrafin not only has multiple different recountings for his backstory, but he also has a book where he's center stage, so I decided to go digging through his lore, and I'm pretty surprised by what I found because, my god, it is a lot. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about Terrafin and see what we can learn about him. So with that being said, let's tear up the rug and see what we can find.
It's feeding time!
Terrafin was one of the first Skylanders of the Earth element to exist, and out of all the Skylanders of that element, he's probably the most popular one, even to this day. He not only has multiple series figures, but he also has an elite variant alongside his Superchargers appearance. But strangely enough, however, he does not have a documented development history, or at least one I could find. That kinda sucks because I'm curious on why he is the way he is, and what series of events could have caused him to become a Skylander of the Earth element. But for you to understand why I'm thinking the way I am, let's jump into his backstory. Strangely enough, Terrafin is a creature known as a dirt shark and originates from the Dirt Sea, where it was common for the dirt sharks who lived there to swim, bathe, and even snorkel under the surface. Terrafin was at first a lifeguard who would patrol the dry, sandy beaches and save whatever struggling dune surfer he came across, in between his fin-ups and jaw curls, of course, which gave him the tonnage that he still has today. But sometime afterwards, a certain event would change the course of his life forever. One day, an explosion would erupt from the sky above the Dirt Sea, putting the life of every swimmer within the ocean in danger. And without a moment of hesitation, Terrafin would leap into action, clearing the area in seconds before the explosion scorched the sea below, turning it into a solid sheet of glass. Now out of a job and not the kind of person to laze around and do nothing, Terrafin would take to learning the art of boxing, where he would become a local champion. Creatures from all around would travel to face him with the hopes of beating him, but after body slamming every suitable successor into submission, he would have a chance encounter with Master Eon. Now, even though we don't exactly know the entirety of their discussion, we do know that he would give him the idea and suggestion of becoming a Skylander, and with that, he would go on to join them. But for obvious reasons, this is not where his story ends. Now, the first appearance he has is actually in a Skylander's backstory, and it's not just a one-and-done thing, like a Skylander recruiting another or bringing them to Eon. He is genuinely the main reason why this character is alive, or at least functioning in the modern day. It isn't specified where this happened, but before SSA and before the Mask Power saga, Terrafin would find himself surfing under the dirt before bumping into a dormant drill sergeant, figuratively and literally. After digging up the deactivated Archean out of the ground, Terrafin would drag him all the way back to Master Eon at the Citadel, the ruins before they became the ruins, and after Master Eon used his magic to fire the robot back up, Drill Sergeant would attempt to become the Dirt Shark's servant, since by Archean law, he had to. Terrafin, however, objected this idea completely, so the first order that he gave Drill Sergeant was to not serve him at all, an order that the Archean bot still follows zealously to this day. But surprisingly, this isn't the only person that Terrafin brought into the Skylanders, but we're going to have to touch on that later since we need to discuss the book that he stars in, Terrafin Battles the Boom Brothers. Now, for convenience sake, I'm only going to cover Terrafin's involvement here, but like I usually do with most of the other books I cover, I suggest you go read it in full, and since it's really hard to find, I will leave a link to a Google Drive where you can find it. So with that, let's get going. Terrafin really gets involved in the story in Chapter 2 when he, alongside Sonic Boom and Hot Dog, arrive at Professor Puck's Fantastic Fairy Fair. But that day, they weren't there to investigate anything, they were just there to enjoy the day off. After playing a couple of games, someone's cries would enter the Skylanders' earshot, and after Sonic Boom and Terrafin tracked the source, they would meet a stone golem who went by the name of Puck, and after asking him what was wrong, he would explain to the Skylanders that he was a performer who ate performing, and after being asked why he kept going if he didn't like it, he would explain to them that Professor Puck was forcing him to perform, and almost on cue, Professor Puck made his appearance. Professor Puck would go on to berate Rocky and verbally force him on stage, which struck a nerve with Sonic Boom. But before she could give him a piece of her mind, Hot Dog would come flying around the corner to inform them that he had found something that they needed to see, so they would put Rocky's dilemma on pause for a moment and follow after him. He would take the two other Skylanders to a candy floss stand with a statue next to it, which they found to be inconspicuous at first until they realized it was an actual person, a gill man named Girlfin, and after freeing him and giving him hearing problems, he would tell them that the Flossotron 3000 he got his candy from was behind all of this, adding on that he had a funny feeling about Professor Puck. The Skylanders and Gurglefin would head off to find Professor Puck, being stalled along the way by a sham fortune teller named Madame Destiny before they managed to reach Rocky first, who was performing on stage in front of a crowd of fans, and he was really good too, to the point that the Skylanders stopped to enjoy the show and dance for a moment. But that's when the Flossotron returned, catching everyone off guard. But since the Skylanders were stuck dancing, the Flossotron would trap everyone in candy floss before trolls stormed onto the stage and kidnapped Rocky. Luckily for the Skylanders, they would quickly free themselves with the help of Hot Dog's fire breath, and Terrafin would quickly pursue after the trolls. And once he caught up, he would find Sprocket pinned by the Flossotron and fighting off trolls before jumping in to help. We would then get the reveal that Chaos was Madame Destiny the whole time, and when Sonic Boom and Hot Dog arrived, Chaos would tell the Flossotron to self-destruct, and while the Skylanders were busy trying to save Sprocket, Chaos would escape with Rocky. With a little bit of luck and guidance from Sprocket, they would manage to get her to safety before the Flossotron detonated, and soon after, the Skylanders and their allies would find a name written on one of the candy floss sticks. Afterwards, the Skylanders would return to the Citadel and inform Eon of what happened, and using the name on the candy floss stick, Eon would send Terrafin, Sprocket, Sonic Boom, and a Hot Dog to Junk Mountain to find the Boom Brothers' explosive emporium. On the way there, the Skylanders would cross paths with the Trash Ogre, but after some teamwork, they would send it down into a valley several miles down. But afterwards, they would find the explosive emporium, which had a massive cannon attached to it that immediately began to fire on the group. After Hot Dog made walls of fire to serve as cover for them, Terrafin tried to burrow under it so he could get to the cannon's operator, but he couldn't find his way around the metal wall beneath the base, so instead he built up speed and sped right through it and up the tower before shutting the cannon down. He would then be joined by the rest of the Skylanders before they continued inside, tracking Rocky's scent through Hot Dog and hearing the two brothers argue over the inner speaker before jumping a few grenade generals and using their outfits to sneak through the factory. After snooping around a bit more, they would find Rocky gagged and tied to a chair in the middle of a large room, so the Skylanders would quickly break in and free him, only to realize that it was a trap set up by the Boom Brothers, who revealed themselves to be a single large, two-headed robot. Now, he originally thought that they were just a group of treacherous trolls, only for Chaos to correct him, and he will reveal to the Skylanders that Rocky was the Earth segment of the Mask of Power. With the risen stakes, Terrafin would rush forward with the intention of striking Chaos where he stood, only for the Boom Brothers to pull out a stick of dynamite and throw it at the Skylander. But instead of exploding in a ball of fire, it exploded in a chorus of singing that caused the Skylanders to dance uncontrollably, Rocky revealing too late that Chaos had forced him to sing into their machine. While Chaos laughs at the Skylanders and the Boom Brothers continue to chuck singing bombs at them, Terrafin would manage to shimmy over to each Skylander and give them an instruction to follow after he gave the signal, and once he was done, Sonic Boom would let out her loudest screech yet. This screech was so loud that it drowned out the sound of the singing dynamite, which allowed the Skylanders to move and for Terrafin to give the signal, which prompted Hot Dog to fire as many fireballs as he could at Chaos's feet to the point that the metal floor under him turned hot white. While they were distracted, Sprocket would quickly rush to free Rocky while Terrafin bolted forward and socked the Boom Brothers so hard that he knocked them out and sent them crashing into Chaos, which in turn launched all three of them out of the room. This bought the Skylanders, more specifically Sprocket, enough time to tamper with the computer in the suspiciously rocket-shaped room that they were in. Meanwhile, Chaos and the other trolls were doing what they could to blow up the room that the Skylanders were in, but with the help of Rocky, he brought Sprocket enough time to figure out the rocket. But before they could take off, the Boom Brothers somehow managed to get back in and capture Hot Dog, making the ultimatum that if they don't surrender, he'll blow the room sky high with the explosive pineapple in his other hand. Much to the other Skylanders' confusion, Terrafin would admit to defeat and bow to the Boom Brothers, and urge the other Skylanders to do the same, which caused the Boom Brothers to drop Hot Dog. He would then compliment them on how well made their bombs were, and because of this, they began to argue with each other until one of the Boom Brothers shoved the explosive pineapple down the throat of the other, and since they both had the same body, they both exploded, and the other Skylanders finally realized what he was trying to do. Before they could distract themselves, however, Chaos would order the Skylanders to open the door, and they would trick Chaos this time by pretending to open the door, but in actuality, they pressed the button that launched the rocket, Terrafin telling Chaos that he owes him $5 before they escaped the explosive Emporium. We then cut to the Citadel where we learned that Chaos got it all wrong. Rocky wasn't the Earth segment, it was just in his body, and the reason why he could sing so well. But Professor Puck will return and try to force Rocky on stage once again. They will return to the fair and Rocky would be put on stage, only for his singing voice to be absolutely terrible, causing everyone to turn on Puck in response, and because of this, Rocky finally escaped his job. And all well that ends well. Now to be 100% honest with you guys, covering that portion of the book took me forever, and we're not even done yet since he makes a few more appearances. But before we get into the next major appearance, let's talk about this. Now, even though it was a pain to get through since I was both reading and documenting things at the same time, it was actually a pretty good story. Heck, after I was told about it, the book actually made a reference to one of the advertisements. But there's one thing that I want to ask now. Are the Boom Brothers just dead? Now, I know about my downright awful track record when it comes to Skylanders and people dying, but still, I'm pretty sure that Terrafin gaslit these two into just icing each other. But the bigger thing that surprised me is the Skylanders' reaction in the book, because they just laughed when this happened. Now, I know they were laughing at the realization of what Terrafin was doing and getting them out of the jam, but still, they must have looked insane to Chaos for a moment until they explained everything. But let's get going now because there's a lot more to discuss. Afterwards, he would make an appearance and trigger Happy Tarts the Evil Chaos and participate in the final battle, which I go more in depth on here, and we actually get to see him defend the Core of Light in Skylanders Spyro's Adventures before he got banished alongside everyone else. He would then disappear for a while until he made an appearance in Fistbump's backstory, where he would bring him to Master Eon after he witnessed Fistbump drive up a group of Greebles that were threatening the bubbling bamboo forest. And finally, he would make an appearance in Rift into Overdrive. And since I'm running on damn fumes at this point, like seriously, I can't feel my throat anymore, I'm going to mainly go off the new Wiki's retelling of what happened, but I'm pretty sure I made a video on this topic somewhere, and if I find it, the icon will appear in the corner of your screen now. Terrafin gets involved in the book when he offers to go with Stealth Elf and Jetvac on their mission to Know-It-All Island, since at that point in the story, Chaos had already begun making his move on Skylands by shutting down the portal network and sending a group of darkness-powered Drow after a group of Skylanders. After reaching the island and asking around, the Skylanders would get caught in the midst of a rift, and just before they are sucked in, they would be saved by Spitfire and Stormblade. After being taken somewhere safe, the Skylanders would be acquainted with the Superchargers, even though they are admittedly not Superchargers yet, which is a whole topic for another day because the amount of retcons needed to make that work is just, baffling. Anyways, after some more banter, they all decided to go after the Rift engines, and after a bit of traveling, the group would get to the Whirlpool of Destiny, Diveclops and Gilgrunt taking the Dive Bomber to go into the Whirlpool, while the Skylanders on land fended off the horde of Drow that just arrived. After they get some breathing room, Diveclops and a newly supercharged Gilgrunt returns with a multitude of Rift engines, and after using them to transform and fend off the rest of the Drow, the crew is set off to go and defeat Chaos, and with that, that's the last we really heard from him. Now, don't get me wrong, these aren't the only places that he makes appearances in, as he's appeared as cameos in a few more books and comics, but still, it's insane how much of a journey this character has gone on. But with that, this is where this video comes to an end. Now, I know I didn't put as much of my own thoughts in this video like I usually do, but I'm pretty sure the insight I did put in was enough. Also, before I go, I just want to let you all know that there may not be a new Skylanders video next week since I've been contemplating on taking a little bit of a break. But hey, only time will tell. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, share this around so I can grow the channel, make sure to check out Terrafin Battles the Boom Brothers for yourself, along with Return to Skylands and some other stuff in the description down below, and I will see you all in the next one.